Hello, this is Berrin from Ragic speaking. I have just created an event sheet, very simple right now for our event management webinar, and we will add onto this one database sheet as we go to make it more complicated, and hopefully this will give you a well-rounded way of looking at event management with Ragic. So let me just do a quick check to see if it's recording right now. Yeah, I am streaming, so you should be able to see this with a slight delay. Alright, so during this webinar, you can also ask any question that you have in mind or about this topic in general, or if you're trying to do event management with Ragic, you can tell me about your challenges. The live chat is right on the side, or on the right side of your screen, and if you cannot see that on the right side of your screen, scroll down a little bit, it will still be on the right. And you probably need to be logged in to be able to write to me through the live chat. Now, this is the fourth of our webinar series in April, and I do hope that most of these have been useful for you. I have been organizing some webinar topics for May as well. So hopefully that would be nice as in participation. This month has been really enjoyable. Next month we have webinars from different types of topics for newer users as well as older users. So for users who have been with us for a while, we will go over some of the data analysis portion of Ragic for third-party software, which is going to be on the 11th right now. So I haven't announced these dates yet, but if you want to join, I will just read all of the dates that I have been planning for the May webinars, and hopefully you'll be able to join then as well. So I'm going to zoom a little bit into this event page that I have created over here, just because I think it's a little bit harder to look at when you are looking at the small YouTube screen. Alright, just let me know if I know that the stream is a little bit slow-ish sometimes, but it should have not many problems. Okay, so here I have created a very simple database sheet with no real depth to it, and we're gonna start with this and build it up to so my plan is to actually um, have the venues from other sheets, and we'll hopefully also build a registration for external users as well as the way to check people in to the events. So these have all been asked to me in separate occasions, so I do know some of the challenges. If you have your own challenges, please write them down to the live chat and I'll address to them. Alright, let's get started. So right now what I have built here, I'll show you through the change design, which is our event page. We do have an event ID that's auto-generated by Ragic. We have an event name and the start and end date. You can see that I also have in the formatting over here the hour and minute, so the time of the event start and end, which is planned. And I also have organizer and venue as a free text field, which is not very useful in most cases, but if you only have like intercompany events, you can actually write them down with free text. So it's basically filling the form manually in this case. Also, the description is very short and precise. It doesn't really give me a lot of room. It does give me room to write in, but it's not very advanced in this design. So this is what most people come up with at first, which is great, which is fine, which is small, nice for smaller events, and if you don't have many details to go with. So if, for example, we had a couple more venues that we always hold all the events in, for example, this event that I created as a record is an April birthday, so it's a company April birthdays celebrated all at once. and they listed down all the people who have birthdays in April, and then they're gonna have cake and whatnot. All right. So let's say that this company that we were having an example of right now had more than one venue. So one is meeting room 12 that they have events in. So we can actually change this to become a selection field and add meeting room 12 as an option. So that would um, make it easier for people to enter in venues without having to enter that data manually. And you can also control the format of each option. So the options I'm adding here is the available venues inside for all the events. All right, so I'll add conference room A, conference room B, meeting room 12, and meeting room 15. And let's save that. So you can see that when creating a new event, now people have an option to select from, and the organizer can actually, if there are a few groups that organize events in your company, then you can actually change this to become a user group. So right now this was free text, and I can actually change it to become a user group. This is especially useful if you have everyone in your database within Ragic. What is this? I don't need that. There we go. Alright, so you can actually set the selected group as an entry manager as well, or you can default it to a certain group if you want. We're not gonna do that right now, so let's click save. And right away you will be able to see that these are all my user groups in my Ragic account, and they're all created by default, by the way, for people who are curious about that. The accounting, HR, IT, management, sales, and user, as well as this X user, which means external user group, is all um, default. So there should be in your database, if you're the system administrator, you'll be able to see all your user groups. Alright, so again, this is a very simplistic way of looking at an event within Ragic. So one thing we can do is actually, if you are having all these events and organizing them in different venues that you have um, an agreement with, for example, I will show you some venues in the city I'm living in. So, the National Gallery of Canada is a venue which has concerts actually. Even though it's an art gallery, it does host concerts as well. So, if I was an event manager in a city, then it would make sense to have records for all the venues I have an agreement with separately. So how do you do this? If you add them into a selection field, then it can be possible, but if you want more details about it, for example, different rooms and different spaces that you can use within the events and whatnot, then I would recommend to create another sheet for that. So let's actually create a new sheet for the venues. Alright, so venue number and venue name, and we can also have the address. And we can also have a category if you want. So category, museum, art space. Let's say I'm an event organizer who does um, events for art, okay? In this example. Art space gallery, and then we can also add public space So this can be for happenings, and this can even be a street for happenings, and if it's of course allowed in the city. And what else can we have? Cafe, because cafes can be hired for venues. All right, let's save that. And we already have an address and contact person. So that can be our person to contact. All right, for that venue. Now, if you don't want to assign a venue number for each venue, you can actually create an auto-generated field for it, and I'll just append this with V, and it will generate a number, so V1, V2, V3 for each venue. Alright, and as we are going by this example, I'm just going to add National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa as my first venue. So let's just add the address, copy paste it, and the category is museum, or let's say gallery. And let's make up a name, Jane Doe, and save that. Alright, so now my venue is a separate sheet with its own entries over here. And how I can actually refer to this in my events sheet is that I can link and load this sheet so that the venue information comes from my other venue sheet. So let me open that venue sheet in another tab so you can see it more clearly. Alright, there we go. So my venues are over here. My events are going to be more advanced now. By the way, since I have just created this sheet for my events, when I first created this form with all these fields, Ragic generated the listing page for me in columns over here. So whenever I add a new entry, it will become another row. This is for a note for newer users. So you can see that this description field is making my row way too long, and we don't really have to have that. So I'm going to click change design from the listing page, and I'm going to remove the description from here and add the venue, and I'll actually move it to be under the event dates, so that it should show up over here as a column. So you can see right away that the listing page looks a little bit cleaner. And I always recommend you to have the listing page as less columns as possible, because that is usually a very nice because we only need this listing page to see data at a glance. We don't really need it all the time. All right, so I'm going to change this design and take my venue information from my venue sheet. And let me create, we don't really need to create a new design for that. So I'm going to change this to not be a selection field, but I will delete all these selections. And you can see that since I had the value for the venue over here, on one of my events, it still has meeting room 12 as an option, but I will change that in a bit. So let's say that we want to link the venue number, the venue name, and the venue address over here. So what I'm doing is through link and load, form tools link and load, I'm linking the venue number, and when I select a venue number in my events sheet, the venue name and address will be filled automatically from my venue sheet. Alright, so let's save that design, and I'm going to delete this old venue over here. So let's insert some rows so that this looks neater. And yes, you can drag and drop all the fields wherever you want to. Alright, so right away you can see that I have a venue number, name, and address field over here. on my events sheet. And now I can actually either type, so if I typed V, all my related venues would show up, or if I actually double click on there, I can see a list of all my venues and I can select the venue, and the name and the address is filling automatically from my venue sheet. Alright, so let's save that, and let's say that this April birthday party is going to be in the National Gallery of Canada, which is a little bit too over the top, but that's okay. We have the venue address, but for attendees, we probably need to show a map as well. Now, the easiest way to do that is to use a BB code in Ragic, and here's how to do it. So when you have a field that has a free text field type, you can actually use a BB code within the field. And if I had wrote the value with map, I think, I'm not sure. Let's quickly check the BB code in our user guide because I don't want to say anything wrong. Embed Map. Oh, it's ADDR. Alright, let me write that down in the live chat as well. It's not map, but ADDR, so that's the BB code we're going to use. And when I insert the address in between these ADDR brackets and end it with a / over here within the BB code, then I will be able to see that map, hopefully. So let's try that. So if I were doing this manually, I can write ADDR 380 Sussex Drive, Auto ON K1N 94N, and then I'll end the ADDR tag. And you can see that right away something is happening. It's actually showing me where that is within the Google Map. Alright, so that is in a free text field. The actual text is still over here. So if I were to edit this field, then it's going to be a little bit harder. So what we want is that this information should come from the venue address field automatically. And if I click change design and go to the map, I can actually add the formula to do that. So we want the address to come from the value of A9. So in Ragic, we always refer to the field header, not where the field value is going to be. But right now, I'm editing A10, which is the map, and I am referring to A9, which is the address. All right. So A9 is what I need value-wise, but I also need to add the BB code as well. So ADDR A9, and then I will close that ADDR tag. Alright, and you can see that I put the ADDR tags inside quotes. So next time I'm around doing that, so if I delete this address, the map will not be able to find my address. And if I add an address, it will right away show me where that venue is in the map. Alright? Any questions so far? Alright, and it's a good tip to always use Google Maps as format, or if your country, for example, in the US and Canada and in the UK, most countries that speak English have a very organized map system. So if you're writing the address correctly with the full address and the postcode, you won't really have problems displaying the map with this method. Alright? And basically, you know that your users can actually manipulate this map and, look at where they need to go. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit. Alright, so this is my event page so far. If I wanted to synchronize this event to my calendar, then I would actually be able to do that within Ragic as well. So this is another point of what we're doing so far. We can actually add events to our calendar without having to do it manually. So if I go to tools and calendar synchronize, actually let's add a new event. So event name, gallery opening or exhibition opening, and it can be on Friday at 8 a.m. We'll end on 6 p.m. Okay, so the organizer can be our management team. And the venue, let's select the same venue again and save. Alright, so that's my basic event page right now. And you can see that I have two events under here. So if I wanted to add both to my calendar, what I can do is I can synchronize my calendar application with my Ragic database that has a start and end date. So let's click calendar sync from here, and we want to have the event name as the title in our calendar. So in an event that you're creating, so I'm gonna add it to here, but in any event you're creating, you have the title, you have the start date and end date, and the location as well as the description. And you can actually select a calendar that it belongs to. So this is actually one of my university accounts calendar, but it's using Google Calendar as a basis. So that's a good way of showing an example. Alright, so the description would be the description field, and the start date will be the start date, and the end date will be the end date. I actually need to separate the start date, start time and end time. So let's actually do that in our database. If I had start time, there we go, start time, end time. And this can actually refer to the start date because I don't really want to bother with writing that again. So I'm just going to refer to A3 over here, and in end time I will refer to A4. And let's recalculate those formulas. Alright, what? Let's see what happened there. It's pulling the wrong times. Alright, let's first enter them manually and then worry about that later. Okay, so my start times and end times are also there. So let's try calendar syncing again with the event name, the description, and our start date and start time with the end date and end time. So right away you can see that there are more fields to add if you want. You don't really have to do that, but it's a good way to add events that will repeat. And my iCalendar URL. So basically when you click this button, it will generate a URL you can use that you can copy. So I'm copying this entire thing. And then on Google Calendars, it's easy to add a new calendar through here by URL. So you can see on the other calendars, or I think no. Alright, so here in other calendars, you can open the drop down and there's an add by URL. And here I just pasted it, the link that Ragic gave me, and click add calendar. So that is loading right now and it should populate it should import that calendar. So let's see, yes. So you can see the exhibition opening is here and the company April birthdays are here. Alright, and I think my calendar time zone is somewhere different, so it's showing the times a little bit wonky, but that should be easy to fix by setting the time zone on my calendar over here. Alright, so far so good. Any questions so far? So that's how you synchronize events. As you can see, if you look at the week display, then you can see the start time and end time also synchronized like that. Alright, so that's how you add things to your calendar. You can actually also use the calendar report in Ragic if you want to. It's a very similar calendar that generates a calendar view on your sheet with the same fields. So feel free to use that as well. But a lot of people prefer to use their own calendar app. So what I did was use the Google Calendar, but that link also works for Outlook. It also works for Yahoo Calendar, I think, and for iCal. So both all are great options. It just depends on what you're used to using. Basically, most modern calendar applications will synchronize with your Google Calendar, so that's always a workaround to use. Alright, so now comes the harder phase of an event management database. Now we kind of want to have people register to events on their own, and then we would like them to register for an event and actually have people in the venue to check people in. And that is the basis of what people usually ask me when creating an event management database. So let's go through that step by step. Now, if I want people to register to my events, they're probably going to be an external user. So if I actually have a limit of people that can be in an event, I can actually add that to my database structure as well. Alright, so what that means is I probably have a list of people who can register to an event, and it will probably make my event full when it reaches the limit. And basically, a lot of people also have different tiers of tickets. So there are early bird tickets, and there are student tickets, senior tickets, and they are all different prices, and some have a limit of being sold in a certain amount of time. Like the early bird ticket is usually a pre-sale, and then comes the pre-sale, and then comes the normal sale, and then comes the sale at the door. So if it's that type of event that you're creating on your database, then you can actually have that type of info someplace else. But if you want to add that, it's up to you. It depends on your structure. If you have a very different structure, please write to me on the live chat now, and we can try to incorporate that into this webinar. But I'm going to go with the basic, simplistic type of ticket. So let's say that there are two types of tickets: the early bird and the regular. Okay. So let's actually add that to our event database. Oh, I kind of want to hide these fields so that they don't look too messy on my database sheet over here. So I have hidden those start time and end time, because we already have that info on the start date and end date. And what I want to do is I would like to actually have different tiers of tickets, right? So let's create an available ticket type field. Now let's say we have early bird, regular, and at door. Okay, let's have 3. Alright, so for newer users, what I'm doing right now is creating a subtable on my form. So this is my event form that I'm editing right now, and when I ignore the white space where the field value would be and create a field right next to my other field name, then it actually shifts all the values downwards, which means that I can actually have more than one value in a field, but in separate rows. So that is a sub table, and the quantity is probably going to be just a digit quantity, and then the price is going to be um, like this. Alright, so let's save that for a minute and have a look. So we have a subtable over here, and by the way, if you have more entries, this subtable will expand as you enter more data. So at first it shows you 3 blank rows always when you create a subtable, but it can expand. So you can have as many rows of data as you would like in a subtable. So let's say we only have 25 early bird tickets and they are priced at $12. And we have regular tickets and we have 150 of them with a price of $25. And let's have outdoor tickets, 25 more, and they are $30. Let's save that data. Alright, so this is the available ticket type thing. We actually can create a new sheet from this subtable with all this info, because what I want is when I actually register people to my event, I want the quantity to decrease. Okay, I want the availability to decrease and the people who have bought the tickets to specify the amount of quantity needed for that ticket. Alright, so let me create a new sheet from the subtable that I created over here for tickets. I'll actually insert a title. Oops, there we go. Let's drag and drop a static field. There we go. And let's type tickets. Make that bold and centered so that it looks like a header over here. So that makes our database look a little bit more organized. Let's create a new sheet from that subtable and link it to the event ID. So this is the reason why I usually have an ID. So if an event had the same name as a different event, but all its data is different, for example, the venue is different, the event name is the same, but it's actually 2 separate events, then it makes things easier to differentiate events from each other to have a separate record. So to differentiate that, we always like to have an ID number for each type of record. Alright, so let's click create new sheet from this subtable, and these are all my tickets for all my events. So let's move that event ID over here. So you can see that event ID 2 has outdoor regular and early bird tickets and the quantity available and the price. This is basically what I just entered in the subtable over on my design mode. So what is different? The thing that is different is if I had for my other record for the company April birthdays, and if I was going to add tickets at $0. So this has 50 regular places for $0, so it's a free event. It will actually also show up on my tickets sheet. So let me just refresh that entire thing. Yeah. So in my tickets sheet, you can see all the records and all the tickets. So these are all my tickets from all of my events. Margaret is asking, how did you do the static heading? You did it so fast. I'm sorry for doing that fast. I will do that again. So on my events sheet, when I was in the form design, you can see when you actually click into any of the empty spaces that there's a drag and drop component. So actually when I create fields, I usually like to type in them. So type to create a new field. So that is a new field, right? But if I click on an empty space, you can see that there are regular fields over here. So with all the field types that are available over here, not all of them, but most of them are also available to create as drag and drop. And you can actually double click to edit their names, or you can edit the field type afterwards. So the static text is actually here, and it shows description, and you can actually drag and drop that as a title. So it's not a regular field, it's just for a title or a description. So this one is an empty just text, and that aids people to, if you write instructions, that aids people to have a look at when they look at your database the first time, they actually would have those descriptions to guide them. And usually it's a great method, and it actually can support BB codes as well. So if I had the an event details kind of thing over here and write formulas here, I can use the formula BB code to say formula and then A2 plus space plus I don't know, start date, I guess, A3 plus so what I'm doing is I'm referring to these field headers. So event name, and this quote, single quote, and the space in between the single quote is for a space in between the words. And if I added, let's say, venue name, and just close that formula BB code, so that gives me a static text that will change every time I load that event. So that actually gives me the result of what I just wrote as a formula. So that you can do if you want. You can just drag and drop and write a title to the static description field. You can use them as formulas. Bear in mind these are not stored in the database in any way, so it's actually just a text. Alright, I hope that is helpful. I'm sorry I'm going too fast, and I will try slowing down a little bit. Alright, so let's exit from here. What were we doing? Right, we were talking about the tickets. So this ticket sheet is actually collecting all my event tickets from all my events. And what I want to do is to decrease the amount of tickets available for each ticket once they're being sold, right? So let's do that. Let's create a registration sheet now. Alright, new sheet, registration. So we want the registration ID to be there as well. I actually want to create a timestamp for that. So through auto generate field, I will select one of the ones that have a year and month. So that will actually, for today, it would give me 2017, and then 04, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let's add a R prefix in front of the formatting there so that it will go R today, this month, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's add first name, last name, email, and what else? So the people who are registering to an event need to have a look at the event details. So I'm going to link that from the events sheet and basically link the ID, name, venue name and address, and the event description. So that will be all my event details. Let's also add the start and end date. So I want that to be filled when they're actually filling the form automatically. I don't want them to necessarily be able to select the event itself, but we'll configure that later. So you can actually change the names of the fields. It's still linked. You don't have to worry about, having different titles. So I'll actually add another static text over here saying that these are the event details. And add a new row. Registration details. Okay, and this person is purchasing a ticket with a registration, right? So we're actually going to link that from our ticket sheet. And their quantity is going to be updating the quantity available over here, but I'm not going to link that because I don't want them to be able to, see all they won't need to edit the quantity available. They will enter their own quantity that they're buying. Well, actually, this doesn't make any. Yeah, it does. Okay. So, purchasing ticket type and the quantity. So let me add a field with a quantity and a number over here, and the price is actually going to be price per ticket. Okay, quantity and then total. So the total is going to be a measure field over here, and it will actually calculate the price per ticket times quantity. So it's A17 times A19 over here. And okay, let's test this out first. So if I were registering to an event, I don't want to be able to have the user select from the events they're registering to. So we're going to remedy that in a bit. And we're purchasing, and we actually want to be able to filter these tickets to the corresponding event. All right. So I will do that in a bit too. Let's say I'm purchasing 5 of the regular tickets, and then I want that quantity to be updating my available tickets. All right. I hope I'm not going too fast. All right. So first thing I need to do is make sure that the person who is registering to the event does not have to select the event they're registering to. We want them to be able to go to the event page and just click register from there. The second thing we want to do is we want to filter let's do that first. We want them to be able to select a ticket that is corresponding to the event they want to go to. So through form tools, you can immediately see that the tickets that we linked over here has a little gear right next to it. And if we click on that gear, you'll see the dynamic filtering options. So when we're selecting the purchasing ticket type, we want to have the ticket type to match the ticket type on the event. So what that means is I can actually select the event ID field to match the event ID on this sheet. And if I save that, you can see that when I select an event, when I'm selecting a ticket, it will actually only show that event's available tickets. So if this were event ID 2 with my exhibition opening, then I would be able to see only those tickets that were available. So let's say if I were to purchase regular tickets and the price per ticket is $25, that was loaded from the tickets page. The quantity is 5, so the total is 125. All right, let's save that. So the first thing we wanted was to be able to fill this form by selecting an event. So let's go to my events page and click change design from the form page. So what we want to do is we want to be able to create a button that fills my event details into the registration page. So I'm going to click convert records to do this. This is the action button that we need. I have talked about all these options for task automation in one of my previous webinars, which was on the 12th of April. It's called task automation. It's on our YouTube channel. If you missed it, you can go watch it if you want. So the convert records is the option that I want right now. I'm going to select registration because I want to convert all of these info to become on the registration. All right, so I'll basically select all the event type fields: event name, event start date, and then venue name, venue address, and then the event description. What else do we need? Nothing. Alright, because our ticket values are actually coming from the ticket sheet. So I'm going to create the convert record button and say register to event. And okay. So that is created in our actions panel, and if I go to the events sheet, you can see the action button over here under it. Also pops up automatically when I load the page. So if I were to click register to event, it actually opens a new form with all the registration details for this event. So what I want to do on here is, since I don't want people to edit this, I'm just gonna change all these event related fields to read only. So on the left you can see there's a read only option, and I want people to be able to fill this form only after they click on that button through my events page. So this is what I'm doing over there. Okay, so basically this created a new registration ID, and let's say that I was someone else purchasing a ticket for an event. Alright, so far so good. Now we want the quantity that was purchased here to take down the the quantity of my tickets that are available. So what there's one thing I want to add on my tickets is that the initial quantity um, to be different than quantity available. So I'm just going to add that here, initial quantity, and then quantity available is separate. So the initial quantity is also a singular numeric value. So that's going to be the same as the quantity available in these initially. Because I want the quantity available to be updated whenever someone purchases tickets. All right, so let's actually add that to our listing page as well so that we can see that in our listing page. And you can actually make your budget calculations and your revenue calculations over here where people cannot see it. All right, so far so good. In our events, yeah, we want to be able to only see the quantity available. The customer doesn't have to see the quantity that was initially available. Okay, so where we want the quantity to update is the tickets, and we want to update it through the registration page. And let's see, so we're actually going to make these to read-only as well, so that the user cannot be able to change it in any way. They can only see the total, and they can only change the ticket type that they're purchasing. Alright, so where the quantity should actually update a value on another sheet, which is my tickets, right? So tickets are going to be updated, and I will use the quantity to update, which is minus the field quantity available on the sheet tickets when the purchasing ticket type matches. Right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to create that button and name that to say purchase. Okay, so if this person purchases the ticket, do I have any other registrations? Yeah, I do. So I purchased that ticket as well. And you can see that Ragic created a field over here that timestamps when this was purchased. So I actually can hide that field if I don't want people to see that. But basically, this can be executed in the background as well. So, okay, so that purchase should have updated my ticket quantities. So let's refresh that page as well. So you can see that, yeah, since the regular ticket was purchased over here, it's gonna update the quantity over here. Let's see, how much did we purchase in our registrations? I'm just gonna remove the event description because it makes that way too long again. We don't need this. We don't need the venue details. Alright, let's have a look. So yeah, let's see. So regular tickets for event 1, 10 should be purchased. That doesn't look right. We purchased 5. Oh, okay, I see what happened here. Because we were matching the ticket type, we want to not match the ticket type. Let's reverse those purchases first. By deleting this value, reverse purchase. This actually reverses my action of updating that value. Okay, so let's try again. Did my tickets update? Yes. So it actually aggregated 15 tickets from both events, which is ridiculous. So let's try that again. I want my registration to be able to update the purchase. So match the we want to match the event ID and the ticket type. Okay, I think that would work. Save. Let's try again. Okay, so we're purchasing 10 regular tickets from event number 1. Oh, this value needs to be blank. Okay, so let's have a look at event number 1. Yes, okay, there are only 40 tickets left and 10 are being purchased, and this did not update the regular ticket on event 2. So there were 2 conditions to fulfill. If on the other one, we need to purchase that as well. So if I click purchase on here, it should update only event number 2. There we go. So it bought 5 tickets from there. So that is updating my quantity available on my ticket sheet. And on my event sheet, that is actually reading the data from my tickets as well, because the ticket sheet was created from the subtable over here in my events. So this is automatically linked to whatever is on my ticket sheet, and it will update when somebody purchases a ticket through registration. Okay, I hope that was clear. I'm sorry for the misunderstandings. And now we will have a look at how checking people in works. So let's say that all people who registered are attending these events, and you kind of want to know if they checked in and how many people checked in. These people purchased 10 tickets as a quantity, and you want to be able to know what the attendance rate is. And it's really good for your reports and even for your planning to see if you can have extra seats, or if you can confirm if people are not checking in from a certain group. So we're going to create a check-in system and to make sure how many people are there and how many availability is opening up, right? So that is basically a very similar info that we have with a registration sheet. So I'm going to copy this registration sheet with the same data source, and we're going to add a few fields and remove some of the fields in the copy so that it's essentially a different sheet. Okay, so let's create a copy of this sheet with multiple versions. So we're using the same data source of the registrations to become the check-in. So I'm gonna rename this registration copy to become event check-in and save that. So right away you can see the registration ID is already there, and all the data from your registration sheet was there. So registration details, event details can actually stay. I'm just going to move these fields a little bit so that we have more room on one screen. Event description, purchase tickets, quantity, and total. And I'm going to delete this. And I actually don't need the purchase action, so I'm gonna I'm gonna remove that as well from the form settings. Okay, so that's removed. So basically I have the bare bones same data I had with the other sheet. There we are. So the description can be actually somewhere else because they're very large fields. Let's try this. Um, this actually is very long, so let's make it span a few cells. This one can span the same amounts of cells as well, so that our database doesn't look too bloated over there. Okay. So let's say that we want to have a timestamp for the event. So we actually want to default that to the date and time that they have checked into. So the format is here, and we want that to be create date time of the check. No, actually we want last modified. Yeah, we want it to be the last modified date time for the event check-in. No, we don't want a default value for this. We want it to be blank. Yes. Okay, sorry about that. We want the check-in to be blank because when people are checking into the event, I want to be able to write the timestamp right here. But this will be created when the person checks in. So we also want attending. So this is basically what we need to analyze how many people from who purchased this ticket has attended through this group. Alright, so that is basically the max amount can be the quantity over here. Leftover, if any tickets are left over from this group, so they actually tell me that that person is not going to come, then it's going to be quantity minus attending. So that would be, in our case, A9 minus A13. Okay, let's try that out. So let's say that this event was, when was it? On the 30th? During that event, people are checking in, and these people have checked in at 1 a.m. 1 p.m. So over here, and then there are actually people, 9 people attending, sorry, and 1 ticket is left over. So that's what I can analyze later. And if you want to have that timestamp automatically filled, there's also a great way to do that. So let's actually quantity bought, tickets, attending, and leftover, and timestamp is what we want to see on the listing page. So if we want to actually have check these automatically with the to-do list, you can do that. So if you're an event manager, it's easier to have this. So actually, this check-in timestamp is my blank field that I want to use in this. So you can right away see that the check-in timestamp is empty, so I can actually see this registration, and if I check it, then that means that this group has checked in, and the timestamp will be populated with that actual time of the server you check that in. So if I refresh this and the event check-in, you can see that the timestamp is being populated with today's date and today's time. So this is the server time. I'm not sure why the server is showing my time zone differently, but I can reset that from the company settings later. And if you want to, check the group later and ask them how many people have attended, then you can actually enter that data later. That is more useful with reservations and groups like that. Okay, so I do hope this has been a well-rounded event management type of informative database and have given you ideas for how to do event management with Ragic for you. If you have any other questions, please let me know right now because I'm over the time of the webinar, but I can answer some questions. So that's all we have for the webinar for the event management. I hope that was useful. Again, if you have any questions, please write to me through the event management live chat on YouTube. You can see the screen on the right side. If you cannot see it on the right side, scroll down a little bit. No problem. Thank you for joining. And again, any questions, anyone? No? If you do have any specialized questions, please write to support@ragic.com. I do hope to organize more useful webinars for you. So next month on May 2nd, we have linking types. So that is more useful for newer users and people who don't know what different linking types do, or if you want a refresher, if you're actually creating new things that branches off of your database, you can join. It's on the 2nd of Tuesday. It's the same time, 1:30 p.m. EST. It's going to be about linking types. And on the 11th, we're going to analyze data with third-party applications. That is also a new topic for me, so I need to study before that. On the 16th, we have an office hour webinar where people can ask their own questions and get their questions answered, and hopefully collaborate with other users as well. And on the 25th, we're going to have it's going to be a Tuesday, and we're going to have a data cleanup and preventing duplicates type of database. Webinar. So I do hope if you find that useful for you, you can join me and listen to our webinar. I know this is a lot to keep in mind. We email new users for the webinars, but if you know your way around Ragic already, our webinar announcements are under what's new. So sometimes this pops up on the side, but if you lose it, it's under Learn Ragic, what's new, and the event ones are always blue. So if you click on it, you'll see the listed webinar dates and details, and actually our YouTube live stream link that you are in right now. So that will be announced in the end of this month. So around like 5 days more, you'll see that blue event sign for the Ragic webinars for May. So what I read to you was my plan for webinars. I do hope you join. If it's not related to you or you want to watch it later, it's always going to be on our YouTube channel after the webinar. Alright, thank you all very much for joining. I really enjoyed presenting this, and I hope to do more useful things like this in the future as well. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.